live from a light industrial complex
A flex unit.
in Larimer County, annexed Fort Collins, soon to be annexed.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, we're gonna
That
annex
makes
it.
sense because
Yep.
we're paying city taxes, but not actually in the city.
Yes.
Which is kind of dumb, but
Yes, so we will definitely be
Yeah,
annexed.
sales tax?
we pay city sales tax despite not actually being in the city. It's a really funky line legally. So
Deep state lines.
deep state, bro. Yeah.
All right, you guys. Today we are live answering the question of what it is to be a good student and how can you be a better student, why that's important, how you can build the competence and the tools and tricks of being an awesome student. And the little piece of gold that we're going to be dropping in this episode is really how being a really good student eventually makes you a really good
Coach
coach and
or teacher or friend
or friend.
really.
Yeah, exactly. If being a good student makes you a better person, I think that's true.
There we go. That's
Yeah.
the statement we're looking
Yeah.
for. Yeah.
And so this is the episode to learn how to be a better person by being a better student.
Yeah. But we're not digging into morals.
Yeah,
We're not digging into better person morals.
I don't think you need. Yeah, unless it is just moral to be a better student. We could say that and stop there.
Yeah. Done.
Done with morals.
The moral questions answered.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start off with
Kick it off.
with just a simple question and essentially practicing what we preach. And in all topics, obviously we want it to be related to parkour if you've got one, but I want to know, how are you guys a student outside of, the day-to-day business grind? Like, what are you guys doing right now that's like, this is an area that I'm a student and I'm currently learning? Like, right, where are you putting your money?
Tactically.
Sure, yeah.
Tactically. Justin.
Actually, right now I am looking into blogs.
Blogging?
Yes.
Into blogging?
But like product blogging.
Product blogging.
Doesn't that fit me?
Yeah.
It does.
No, that's
you got
amazing.
a lot of opinion on products for sure.
That's amazing.
So that's actually what I've been looking at because I feel like so much of my early teenage years and an early adult were like just like researching really cool products and finding these blogs that like review these really cool these I don't know, outside products. So I'm just looking into that.
Like, what's
now.
one of them that you drew inspiration from? You used to talk about one, I think.
Oh, Ultralinks.
Ultralinks.
Yeah.
That-
A classic Tumblr blog.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that turned into a product blog and
sure
a
it did.
design blog. So
Sure it
so
did.
that's what I'm learning right now. And I just and I really like that I just don't know anything about it. There's something that like when you step into something new, it's just like there's just so much I can learn. It feels like every step is like this milestone, whereas in parkour I feel like it takes like years to reach milestones at the level that I'm at. So
Yeah, just with the experience that you have, it takes so long to get to that next.
Just like
It's like going
it's
from
like
diamond
RuneScape,
rank to
98.
predator rank. It's
Yeah.
just like,
I was gonna
it's
say
so
it's like
long.
RuneScape going from 98 to 99 is like harder than going from level 1 all the way to like level 80 or whatever.
Right. So that's exciting to see because you've sort of unlocked one thing that everyone should be open to in keeping a student mindset, a learner's mindset, some people call this, right?
Yep.
A learner mindset as just sort of like a virtue, basically. And that is that sometimes you have to go outside to improve the inside when it comes to what you know, right? So your action of going out and starting this blog will probably come full circle back to parkour in some way. And that's what I'm interested in seeing how it happens, because it's just bound to, because that's just who you are, right? We were talking just yesterday how when Camille LeBlanc, who's a former CrossFit, women's CrossFit games champion, came to work with Ryan and Amos at Apex and at that time Boulder. They invited me down to work through a session with her, and we took her and her husband, now I think, or was boyfriend maybe then, he's also very awesome, through learning some parkour, because at that time she was sort of like in the off season trying to prepare for the CrossFit Games, and she wanted to make sure that she was pushing her boundaries and going outside of what she understood. in order to ensure she was better prepared and sort of get her mindset and her skills in the right place to give her an advantage over her competition, because she said she didn't know if her competition would be focusing on training in this way. Would they be going and learning new things outside of their realm in order to make themselves better? And I thought that was such an awesome and humble growth mindset, because a lot of people who reach a really high level in a sport refuse to take in an entry level role coming into another discipline, right? It's like, if I've been doing parkour and I'm really good, I don't really feel like I want to start out as a white belt in like a taekwondo school or something like that, right?
Standing next to like 12-year-olds.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even just new people. But yeah, definitely in parkour, she was around 12-year-olds, because you go from the CrossFit Games to like Boulder, and there's a bunch of feral-haired like blonde kids running around like with a limited amount of
with no shoes,
but like a limited amount of respect for any kind of authority or maturity, right? So let them run wild. But that was awesome. She had that mindset, so I respect that, and I also respect when people are willing to say, yeah, I might be able to bring this back and contribute and give in certain ways because that's what I was into. A lot of people feel like it's binary, right? Like I can only be interested in one subject. If I go out and I start blogging, then I have to give up parkour. But that's not really the case.
It's true, especially like blogging and parkour. On the at least probably the novice to intermediate experience levels, nothing alike, right? So it's not until Justin starts developing his life into blogging, product blogging, that he'll maybe have to make sacrifices on the parkour realm. But it's unlikely that he cares that much, and if he does, then hey, cheers, you found something else you like. That being said, I will say that probably half the furniture in my house are from things that Justin sent me.
Yeah.
So he's already a product blogger, where I'm like, hey man, look, I'm looking for a really minimalist industrial coffee table, but I've only found this $1,200 concrete one from this site. What are some cheaper alternatives? And he'll straight up be like, why don't you check out these guys, or check out these guys? And I'll check it, and I'll be like, hey, look at that, it's not $1,200.
And that's why Christmas gifts from Justin are the best.
It's true, because he spends so much time just like researching all of these products, and he's like, no, that one's got the wrong like color on it. It's not matte black. Get it out of here. It's cool product, but wrong colors.
It might actually be worth it. Let's say you don't have a lot of friends, and you want Christmas to actually just give Justin a budget and then pay him to consult to learn about you and buy you stuff. Like if you're that level of narcissism.
He's a curated gift getter for
right,
you.
Exactly. Your new consulting service could just be, I'll buy for you, and then I give you $1,000, 200 of which is spent you interviewing me, and then the other 800 is spent on you buying Christmas
that
gifts for me
sounds like
throughout the
such
year.
a great, I'd love it.
There you go.
Dude, you'd love it until somebody wanted something just off the wall ridiculous.
It doesn't matter. It could
What
be.
if you had to shop for Joe Exotic?
Oh, oof,
That would be tough, huh? A challenge.
maybe.
Really? If you just
Probably
get him tigers.
easy.
You can't go up and buy a tiger for $800, not legally.
Yeah. That's true.
Not in this day. Anyways,
true.
so we know how Justin's leveraging his student mindset. What about you, Travis? What are you trying to gain more knowledge of?
Yeah. It's a loaded question. All right, I'll keep it
It's
concise.
also very open.
It's also very loaded and open-ended. So I think for me, my primary focus right now we'll start with the disciplinary side because I think that is easier to understand, is on mobility and really unlocking very specific ways to fix problems with mobility and sort of breaking down the body and understanding, are these my hips that are causing this problem, or is it my hamstrings? Really exploring and listening to the body to the point where now, like, when I do my stretches, and it changes based off of like what I trained the day prior. I can come in and be like, I'm doing a stretch, and then I'll, like, just the other day I was practicing front split, so that's where the legs are in front of you, in the plane in front of you, and they, like, a high kick would be equivalent to a front split if it's right in front of you, like a front kick or something like that, or an axe kick, or a long stride would require that range of motion. and I was stretching, and then I spent a bunch of time opening up the muscles that was in the programming that I was doing in relationship to that split, that direction. Now the middle split is where the legs go out. That's your Jean-Claude Van Damme over the semi-trucks,
Yes.
like middle split, right?
Such a
so
cool one.
so that's the middle split. But that was a different day for me in programming. And when you do the middle split, one of the areas of the body that you're focusing more is that, like, the pancake split, that you're moving that direction where your body's falling forward and your legs are apart. So I was stretching, and I did such a good job opening up my the part of the hamstring that's used in the front split, that I went down to do my front splits, and then I was like, I could feel and tell right away that the tension from a couple days prior working on my middle split and those areas more on the inside of the groin was actually what was my limiting factor in that day of training for the front split. And so that was where I think in the past I would have been like, I just need to spend more time in this. But because I'd been working and doing more research with people who are really good at regaining these splits later on in life, right? Like not being an 8-year-old, just being forced and growing into the splits, but being an adult, like there's hope for you. If you feel like your joints and ligaments are made of concrete, there are ways to open them up. But oftentimes we just hammer on certain parts of the body. For example, you're trying to get the split and you just rail on the hamstring, when in fact there's another side of that, which is the leg that's back behind you, and that's the hip. So for a lot of, especially power athletes or people who do a lot of kicking, jumping, running, striding, like your hip gets really tight, and then the longer you spend in chairs, or what we're doing right now, we're just sitting, we happen to be sitting today, if you don't work that the other direction, that gets really tight, and now you're basically putting all this work into the hamstring when you have like a super suboptimal amount of range of motion coming from the hip flexors in the front.
Inefficient.
Very inefficient.
But what I'm hearing from this though is that you're actively subscribed to somebody else's programming for this, right? This isn't your own programming for mobility.
Some of it is, but most of it is, and then I'm making some of it up based off my prior experience. I'm adjusting. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Like, I think the point that you're pointing at, right? I've never done it. What you're pointing at is, it's like when people say pre-planning. I'm like, isn't that just planning?
That's just planning.
What you're pointing at is that I'm not afraid to give up my feeling of control in what I learn and be flexible and open-minded to learning from other people who are experts, and also understanding that the learning process is something this is a big one. The learning process is really just happening in you. You're never receiving this type of direct transmission really, unless it's like factual transmission, which is one level of like learning. It's not true wisdom, in my opinion. That's information gathering. And it's really happening in your head, and if you can understand that, you can sort of let go, and then when you meet someone who's new or in a different discipline, or maybe you didn't already look up to them for their accomplishments, you're more open to what they might say. And if they are an expert, it's real easy to take information from them and just experiment with it and try it and employ it and trust in their process for a little bit, and then try and learn. And when you understand that's happening inside of you, in your head, like you're the one that's really trying to like make sense of it, it's very empowering. Instead of being like, oh, well, I can't ask a question over there because I haven't thoroughly vetted this person. You know, I don't know all their credentials and all these other things, and I don't want to waste my time with them. It's like, you need to be able to develop the competence to vet instructors, to vet, to be able to see the gold in what someone has
and
to
on
offer.
the fly too, not having to do it like, oh well, Travis Lee, let me Google search him before I have a conversation. To be able to talk with you, and as we're talking, to be like, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I can see that from my experience, that what he's saying, he's experienced and he's trained and worked on. I think that's absolutely a skill. I also think that, that like being excited by somebody else's passion, right? Like when I hear, it's the reason that we're in business together. When I hear you two talk about entrepreneurship and parkour and business growth, I see that you guys are passionate about it, and obviously I am too, but it's cool for me to get excited when you guys get excited about something. Or when Justin talks about something like furniture, which I like because it looks nice, but I honestly don't care that much about furniture.
I wouldn't build it.
I wouldn't build it, but Justin would build it. But when he talks about it and gets excited, I get excited too, and I love that. And I think that's part of being a good student, is being able to recognize other people's passions and being able to share in the excitement that they have for it. There's nothing more annoying to me than talking with someone about their work and they're just like totally flat. Yeah. And I'm like, yo, you need to get out of there. Get into something else. Like, okay, let's stop talking about work. You got a hobby? Right? Because I'm looking for that. I'm like, give me something that you're excited about. What do you care about? What are you learning about? Because I want to share in that excitement and learn from what you've learned, right?
Right.
And I think you do that really well. And I think that's something that I've definitely noticed over our years of working in business, is that you tend to get right to what people are passionate about when you talk with them. And that was something I noticed immediately, and I was like, that's a cool skill.
Yeah.
I want to get to that skill. How is it that Travis can come over to my parents' house for Thanksgiving and talk with Justin's fiance's brother's girlfriend, and they're talking about stuff that they're excited? There's multiple lines of separation there,
a lot of
and they're
separation.
connecting instantly on something that like she was passionate about and that you were passionate about, and like that was so cool. And I was like, holy cow, that's a skill I want, right? And I think that's just part of being a good student, is being able to get excited about other people's passions.
Was that a real scenario? Or
That was a legit real scenario,
Okay.
and I kid you
I thought
not.
Just making
I
up
kid
like
you-
relationships of distance.
No, it was real. This was years ago, and then
Yeah.
I believe she actually came to the gym and actually like did classes with us for a while, or maybe not classes, but like did some private lessons, because she was doing CrossFit.
It was over muscle ups. Yeah.
Yep, yeah, it was, and she did like a private lesson around like muscle ups, because she wanted to get that, because she was working on her ring muscle up.
Yes, I remember
And
this
I
now.
was like, and it was like days later that she would like come in and she had like worked on the muscle up and then like had knocked it out, and I was like, holy cow, like that was cool. What a way to like leverage, both passions and experience and get people what they needed, right?
Yeah.
So that was cool.
I think that comes from just an understanding of humanity, right? When you learn that we're just people, and we all operate a particular way, but sometimes that scaffolding is different. There's like that human element, and then there's the I would call it like the doing, and then like the being. But if you can get right to someone's being, like where they're thriving, or where their attention is. I think attention might be the best way to make that some feel more not material but understandable. Like, where's their attention? And then relate to that attention. That's the fastest way to connect with people. I feel like sometimes I do that just because I have like a phobia of going to institutions or being in settings where things are really stuffy, and then I can't connect with people, and it's just like I'm here and I'm just like waiting it out, right? So lots of times to me, like birthday parties with people I don't know, or just like going to formal events or schools, I've oftentimes felt like this to me, and it just it just drains me, and I really get a lot of anxiety around it. So as soon as I get in a place, I'm like, oh, where's a person? I'm like, yo, what's up? Those are some cool kicks. You like Vans? I don't even know about Vans. I'm just asking, like, you like Vans? He's like, cool. And the worst is when people are like, yeah, it's alright, mom got it for me. I'm like, oh, dang, alright, that didn't work.
What's next?
So what do you do, man? What you think about right now? And then people, like, I try and get there, because then I personally believe, and I wouldn't say this is narcissistic as much as it is just honest, is that if I'm in relationships and I'm in environments, I work very hard to make sure that those environments have a higher level of quality, because they're sharing my headspace. If I sit down with people, they're in my head, right? Like, we're having an interaction, and they're going to potentially influence me for the better. But if they have sort of like a toxic personality or something like that, I'll probably try and learn from that, but work my way away from that, like aversion to those types of cultures, right? Like that.
Sure.
So I think that has something to do with it. It's just, what do you want? And that comes back to being a student. When you approach when people are trying to learn something, what they're really trying to do is learn about themselves. If I come in here to learn parkour, and this is why parkour connects with so many people, is because there's so much flexibility in what you can do,
Yeah.
and there's so much to be discovered. earlier, Justin's like, well, what I love about something that's new is just everything in the beginning is such low-hanging fruit, right? You're just like, oh, I gotta get this and this, oh gosh, and all the, the fruit in the tree, the I think it's a Buddhist analogy, the fruit in the tree is very low, and then you're just like snatching it all up, and then eventually you're like, oh, that's really high. I gotta get really high to get that last piece of fruit, or you just go to another tree. And so in your way there, you're kind of traveling to another tree, and then, but eventually you start to understand more and more about fruit, right? You become a better, like, orchard hand. I don't know what that. Who's a professional fruit picker? I don't know what that industry is. Colin, you want to check that out, right? Because if there is, I'm going to go to school for that, right? just go be that guy, and like, so yeah, farmer would be the. Yeah,
would be the broadest term that we have, but I'm sure there's.
But I like orchard. What is like if you work in an orchard, are you just an apple farmer, or is there some other cool name for orchard workers? So that would be a good metaphor. Yeah, so I think that's really cool that you recognize that. And something that I noticed from you guys is it leans harder. I would consider that more like on the cultural side of things, like on my little like list of the culture, the discipline, and the spirit of things. I would say that's more on the cultural side of things. Like, how do you develop student as a culture, right? Mm-hmm. When we walk into a room, you don't hate on people. You don't say negative things that are going to pull people down, because everyone's trying to explore and they're trying to get enough confidence to do that. And every time you tell them no, or you tug on them a little bit, it sort of like weighs them down, those around you. You think you're being safe, like you're checking them. You're like, no, wait, this is dangerous. You know, you need to find ways to do it that doesn't block their growth. And that's just being a good student around other students or as a coach, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to block their growth, but the real competence is in how you guide them. So if you've got somebody who wants to make a jump and it's too early, you'd say stuff like, yeah, that's really exciting. I see you're excited about that. If we go over here and practice this, I found that, you'll know better if you can make that jump, right? Let's take it down a little bit, let's bring it in a little bit, reduce some of the risk, and then you'll be able to train longer. And sometimes you can, if you have to, you can share a story about your own failures. And that's part of being humble as a coach or a student. And you can say, oh, well, one time I broke a couple toes trying this, so let's try it this way. And then they're like, oh, okay, he broke toes doing that. Cool, he's tried it before. There's some like validation there. And they do it, and they become a little bit more humble themselves and trust in the process. But you guys are really good also about the discipline and the consistency. So that's an element I want to talk about with the disciplinary aspects of being a student. It takes consistency. There are an awful lot of keyboard jockeys out there doing disciplines in parkour, not in any sports, right? People who are spending all their time. There's two types of this. One, you're in school or you're in an institution and you just only have an hour in the day to actually train, or some smaller amount of time, or that's every couple days, and you spend all your time fantasizing on your phone watching YouTube tutorials or whatever, taking online courses and not actually doing it, right? You're pontificating, you're philosophizing about actually moving. And then there's the type of people who are stuck in that position, and there's the type of people who just like to live in that position. And we can all sort of identify the student. There's a student that comes in once a week or once every other week, and they're just like, their head, you see the stuff they're trying, right? You see them like throwing something big, and they're working on something big, but you're like, I haven't seen you in here consistently, and you come in and now you want to throw this big stuff. You've been working through this in your head or imagining that you're going to do this, but there's a level of work there at the physical level and the preparatory level. It's just not there. The consistency is not there, and now you're hedging all your bets in your hopes that you're going to land this trick, or you're going to hit this jump, or you're going to do this move. But you just need more time doing the fundamentals to get stronger and to build the body to be able to do those things, and then you can take the mind there, right?
And that's a maturity thing too, right? Like coming in once a week to whatever your discipline is. Once a week's just an easy example. Coming in once every gap of time to do your discipline and expecting that you're going to unlock something new each time is a bit of immaturity, right? It's just you not recognizing that as a student, sometimes you have to build on that knowledge, right? So the consistency has to be there if you want to unlock things consistently, right? So coming in once every now and then and being like, oh, I got my backflip last time, and today I'm going to get my front flip.
Mm-hmm.
It's not impossible, but it's just you're risking a lot. You're risking injury on that one, but you're also it's just an immature approach to be like, I'm going to come in here, and because I've got the mindset, because I've been thinking about it, I'm able to unlock it if I just grind hard enough, right? That's just you're looking at only part of the picture.
Right.
The other part that's on the dark side of the moon is that you just need to be in and get some more time.
Right. And then the other thing is like, why? Why do you want the front flip right now? Is it to be cool? Is it to be like, I did it? And then what do you think is going to happen if that's all you love and that's the dopamine hit you're looking for? What do you think is going to happen when you get that? Because one front flip to other front flip to other big moves is quite difficult. And yes, you can enjoy the period of acceleration, but the wisdom that's gained when you unlock a few of these achievements and then you get to hit a ceiling a little bit really comes from loving the process. So when you come in, you think you're working on a front flip, but what you should be savoring is the process of getting to a front flip. Now that's the journey, not the destination cliche, but it's a cliche and people hear it and they think, oh, I think most people will hear that and be like, yeah, no, I understand that, but it doesn't feel that way, right? And the answer to that is yes, you're right. That's what's hard, because once you learn to do that with one thing, you can do it with almost anything. So if Justin goes to learn about blogging or microblogging and product research, product development, he's not thinking to himself, I can't wait to find that one product that I review and then I tell everyone and they're like, you were so right. Right? Like he's not after that.
Does sound pretty cool though.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously, well, yeah, so does like the front tuck off the 10-foot pillar, right? Like, I get it, but you're also gonna, the anticipation, it's like cooking something that you love to eat, right? Mm-hmm. You're like, oh man, so here goes the garlic, right? And then I'm gonna throw this veggies in, right? We're gonna cook it up. It's dangerous.
It's dangerous for you.
I know, because then I get hungry and we have to end the podcast early.
Yep.
But so when you go into your passion, so let's talk about passion is a virtue, in my opinion. Meaning it's something you cultivate within yourself. It's something you have. It's that ambition and that interest and that attention and ability to sort of like taste things in a way that other people can't. And I think that's a competence and a virtue. There's a Netflix show out there. Again, we're back to food, but it's the Japanese guy who retires early. And then he just like has these fantasies about where he's like a samurai warrior who goes in and like levels like a noodles house or something like that, and like really savors his bowl of noodles. Like it's just really fantasy.
I have no clue. It does sound interesting.
It's
sounds like
very cool. So the whole premise of this show is that this guy is taking this basic attention of like, I'm retired and now I'm working on my life and dealing with sort of this like retirement crisis. But then he goes in to do like these regular things and then really creates this fantasy and this enjoyment around just very simple things like eating a bowl of noodles and enjoying, and in his case, a beer. I'm not into beer, but I watched that bit. I was like, man, I just want to have some like grilled fish and a beer right now. And every episode is about a particular type of food and how you can appreciate it in sort of this very mindful way. And so there's also a type of meditation training called mindfulness meditation, and you can do that with eating. And when you do the mindfulness meditation exercises with eating, like you're supposed to think about the taste of everything and how good it is. You have to be able to do that with the process of learning movement, right? So we come in here and you learn a new vault. Don't rush it. Yeah, you'll get the Kong vault. Don't worry. But let's enjoy what it's like to be able to get that, right? Mm-hmm. And there's some build up to it and savor it a bit. So when you go and do your research and whatnot, you just have the fact that you said and you were self-aware enough to say, I know I'm just so excited to get all these, like, not easy, but to learn all these new things is this field I don't have any understanding about. What you're really saying is you're excited to grow, you're excited to learn more about yourself, and you're excited to enjoy the process of doing that. That's the harder answer to that question of it's the journey, not the destination. And it's okay to come in and want those moves and then go after them, but just remember that enjoyment can be very short-lived if you don't find fulfillment in the process, if you can't learn to savor that. Otherwise, you're just going to be like, so many people are like, I didn't get this, I have to quit this discipline, I have to quit this sport, The only time I'm happy is when I'm unlocking achievements, when it's achievement unlocked. If you find yourself feeling that way, that's a red flag for this. That's a red flag for that ability to enjoy the process. So work at it backwards. If someone says to you, it's about the journey, not the destination, and you think, not really, or I can't feel that and I can't see that, that should be your red flag that you don't understand how to learn through a process, and that's what you should be working on, not the front flip.
Or the reality is it could be that the particular sport or passion that you're working in is just not your thing. There are absolutely things that we've all done and spent time and invested into, and then we're 15, 20, 100 hours in, and we're like, you know what?
Not my thing.
I actually don't like this, and that's okay too. But that's where that red flag is that you're saying is like you need to see that, be able to see that flag come up, and then you need to be able to look and be like, why am I not? Is it a procedural thing that I'm just like I'm not enjoying the process of how I'm learning, or is it I just don't care about this thing in general?
Yeah. Also, you could have just run into the wrong coach too, because sometimes the coach can ruin the experience, right? If you as a student are going to learn something new and you expect everyone else around you to be excited about that movement, you kind of feed off that. And that's why it's so important to find a good coach, because you'll just raise each other up. The coach is going to see how excited, or you're going to see how excited the coach is about the movement, and that's only going to make you more excited about it. But if you go in to a cool sport, like even parkour, and the coach isn't excited about doing whatever you're doing that day, it can bring you down too, and you can ruin your whole journey on one day like that. Well, many traditional sports were ruined that way for me.
Yeah,
football I was just completely ruined like that. It's always about hitting hard and being this like warrior athlete and just being like just mindless,
American monster.
Yeah, monster hitting other people as hard as you can. When that's not what football is about to some people. A lot of people, it's more of a finesse art, right? So, but I was taught that it was warrior art, and I need to send my tiny little body into giant blocks of stone, and hopefully I can tackle them. So,
yeah, what I was gonna say, you got it perfectly, is that as a coach or as maybe somebody who's teaching somebody else or giving advice, you have to be really cautious, because if you're not passionate about that process or about the industry that you're in, you could very well ruin that industry for somebody else, right? And that's a thing that we don't think a lot about, that we think like, oh, teaching and coaching is awesome because you get to inspire, other people to the thing that you do. And that's really awesome. But that is a double-edged sword, in that you can also totally crush somebody's inspiration, right? And that I've seen it happen before, and I've experienced it just like Justin has, where somebody's come in super excited and we're like, no, you can't do that. Maybe it's a safety thing, maybe it's whatever, right? And that passion gets like stifled, and you can see the kid be like, well, then maybe parkour's not my thing, because I thought it was like somewhere where I can express myself through movement, and now I've been boxed. I've been told this entire time that parkour will get me out of the box and on the box and under the box and around the box, and I just came in and now I'm put in the box. Right? And then they're just like, actually, I guess I'll just go back to football.
And so if you have that, you have a couple layers in there. One, the teacher has to understand that it's their responsibility first to convey the excitement, which is like the spirit of doing things. It'll appear disingenuous if the person doesn't seem to be having like an authentic experience around it, especially with coaching. That's why it's really important that if you're coaching, that you maintain a level of displayed enthusiasm, even though sometimes you're having a rough day and you've got to put that face on to some degree. We understand that, but there are people who are dependent on that for energy. And on the student end of that, that's where you have to just realize, again, being self-aware, if you need that from someone else, you have a deficit.
Yes.
And that's okay, because when you start out, kids are just like that. They're looking for mentors.
Adults are just like that, right?
And adults could be like that.
Yeah, even more so.
Yeah. Right? Because there's layers of time, right, that have made that worse, right? So the understanding that's okay. And then also understanding that it doesn't need to be at the center of someone's existence what it is that we do. It doesn't have to be I can come in here and I can operate some, for lack of a better term, I was thinking this word, dinner party parkour, right? Where it's like you come in, you do a few classes, you get a taste, you sample it, it's good. And back to the food analogies. Sorry, but it's so easy to understand because everyone eats, right? So you can have a little parkour tapas. I don't care. You come in, you do one class a week, and that's the only time you train, but you like it, and it's a break, and it gives you some freedom, and it's interesting. Cool. That's fine. I'm not going to put judgment on that. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, no, this happens in a lot of disciplines. We don't really know the discipline. You really know parkour. You're not going deep enough. You know what I mean? Like, that's like, well, maybe for them, that's it. That's fine. You're sharing a little bit of it, okay? Mm-hmm. Not everybody needs to be, like, so infatuated with the discipline for them to have an authentic experience. Yes, the spirit of things can feel much, much deeper, and the quality of that can take you to new places, for sure, in life, but sometimes it is just about coming in and trying something different, and that's okay too. And the teacher needs to understand that.
And the teacher will recognize that if the teacher has done a good job of being a student.
Yes, right.
Because you'll know, I've gone into an area being really passionate and have had a bad experience where that passion was crushed. I've had experiences where I went into this new passion and there was a passionate teacher, and that resonance was amazing, right? And I've also had areas where I was like, I think this is cool, and I had an authentic experience, and then it was like, but it's not my thing. Mm-hmm. And if as a teacher, you know that if you've been a good student because you've experienced it, and you'll be able to recognize, Justin, super excited to do parkour, doesn't seem like it's going to be his thing, but that's okay, because I'm going to give him the most authentic parkour experience I can give him, so that he can make that decision. Travis comes in. Travis is very clearly all about parkour. Yeah. Loves parkour. Wants nothing but parkour. I want nothing but parkour, so I'm gonna resonate with him and make sure he gets that experience too, right?
And then also respect that about people and don't chop them down. Like if some kid comes in and it's his first lesson and he's got like every bit of like, sort of kitschy swag that you could get. It's his first lesson. He got one hat on from one team. He's got like Ninja Warrior shirt. He's got like all these things that you may not feel as deep.
Fingerless gloves.
Fingerless gloves.
Do we still see those?
Yes.
I haven't seen them in a little while.
In teens. It seems like there's a compulsion as a young man that as soon as you have any kind of expendable income, the first thing you buy is fingerless gloves. Going to the gym, I've got my notepad and my fingerless gloves.
Don't do it. Go to Justin's blog for
yes. That's the first blog. It's like the swag you need for day one of learning parkour.
Yeah, researched that after watching Drive. So yeah, I got those too.
After watching Drive.
Yeah. Dude, driving gloves have always been something I've wanted, but I don't drive a glove.
You can't do it.
I also don't drive fast. So.
Well, also like
and in the winter, it's super nice. If you don't have like a heated steering wheel, having gloves is very nice because that steering wheel gets cold.
In China, people will wear them because they don't want their hands to get all like sunburnt because they spend so much time in like the drivers.
They don't want the taxi tan.
Yeah,
the taxi tan is this arm's dark and this hand's dark.
Right, and this side of the face ages like 10 years faster. Right, exactly. So we'll avoid that. But it's like also when you see somebody who's like that, just be like, oh, this person wants to do this. They want to be excited about what we do instead of being like, man, this kid came in and like he had like all this like swag on, he's a poser, right? Just let it go. Like, also like, it's kind of a jerk when you act that way. Like imagine you want to go try something new and you get approached with like something you're excited about, and then other people are just like, it is what it is, right? Just accept it and just let them, like, once they understand it more, they'll develop different tastes, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yep.
And those will get better. Some of the tactical things that I think you can do as to be an amazing student and to make your instructors happy and to be able to learn more and learn faster, one of my pet peeves that I think is a legitimate one is when a student will be like, ask for something. So I want to talk about the information versus wisdom. And this is when a student will come in, so catch yourself doing this. It's like early student game is definitely a self-awareness game. You are trying to become more self-aware. And when a student comes in and then they ask for questions on something, this happens more in like the middle. This isn't, the new students don't tend to be this way. This is more like you start to know a little bit, and that could be dangerous, right? In the sense that you get a little cocky and you're like, oh, and you ask a coach for a question, or you ask a coach a question, and then they say, they give you an answer, and you say, oh, I know.
Oh, yes.
and
So
you're
like, show of hands if you're listening or watching and you're a coach, just like show of hands, how many coaches have heard that from their students?
Yeah.
And then also, if you're in the darkness of your own space right now, I'm assuming, or no one's going to understand that you're listening to this in a cafeteria or something, you can raise your hand right now and just own it.
Just
own the fact that you've said that before. Because I did. In my teens, I definitely said, I know that. No, I know. And you went to them and you said, I have a question, I'm trying to solve this problem. Then they gave you an answer. You felt that answer was obvious and you already knew it. And then you're going to be like, oh, I know that. Oh, I know that. I know that. But what about blah, 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 blah? Like, what the coach is usually trying to tell you is that you didn't do it. Even if you intended you know what I mean? That's the worst part about it, is that you're like, it's that self-awareness piece. If you get that answer, then I'm going to give you the way out of that. I'm going to give you the secret to that. Because what it is timing. You didn't know when to apply that. When someone gave you that information, you were like, that's not new information to me. Yeah, but the timing of that information was misapplied. And that's what wisdom is. I've heard that before. Wisdom is the timely application of knowledge.
Yes.
Right? That's great. You got all these facts memorized, or maybe you even understood a concept. But if somebody says, well, why didn't that work here? The good news is, the first thing is you have this visceral response. I asked for a coach's question. He told me something I already knew. He must not know what he's talking about. But the real gold in that is that you already knew the answer. Like, you knew the answer to it.
You're just embarrassed.
You already have it.
That your coach just turned you 15 degrees to the left and it was like, it's right there. And you were like, oh, I knew that. And you're like, no, I knew that.
You're like, well, I knew that.
Of course.
A lot of times I feel like this can be solved too if you just video yourself, and then if you were to give your advice, your self-advice, sometimes it'd just be the same advice that the coach that, that you said, I know, to would have given you the exact same thing. You can also flip this on the other end too, and as a coach, if you're ever saying something like, go higher, and then the student says, I know, this problem lies with the coach, because you can't say something like, do it harder, more, and expect the student to be like, oh, that's great advice, now I'm going to try hard. Like it can go both ways for sure. So
how do you handle that? Like, if you've got a student who you feel compelled to say, you're looking at them and you feel compelled to say, they're like, I don't get it. And then you give them the answer and they're like, I know. But you can tell it's like I know, like, I'm trying to do that, like, I'm aware of that, and this is when I'm trying to apply it, but it's not coming out for me.
Yeah, I think that's the harder part of the problem, I think. As a student, recognizing someone giving you advice and trying to take that in the best way, I think it just requires a little bit of patience. But as a coach, I think you have to ask why they're not doing, the obvious. Why they're not jumping higher, because that's what they need to do, right? I feel like it's, can you jump higher, or why don't you feel like you can go higher? But yeah, I think you need to go into diagnostic mode and figure out why they can't do the obvious answer to it.
And sometimes if you're like the dinner party parkour athlete, right? There is this type of student, and you have to realize if you're this type of student, you may not get that that technique as fast, because you're only coming in once, and then you're not recording yourself, and you're not going through the time to do the self-analysis. If coach gives you time, you should 10x the time they took to work on it yourself. That's something that I try and practice. When I get feedback from, I trust in the process, right, a little bit. When I get feedback from any coach, if they send me a video, if they tell me something, before I come back to them and ask another question that I could discover on my own, a very easy hack is do it 5 to 10 times, depending on how much volume it is, and then come back with a better question, or maybe you would have answered your own question.
Yep, for sure.
In that way.
That's definitely a huge thing, is as a student, this is something I get more with like adult clients, but I would prescribe something and the adult would be like, well, where am I supposed to feel this exercise? And my response is, you haven't even done it, so do it and you'll probably feel it.
Right.
So like, don't ask questions. There is some wisdom in like seeing an exercise and then being like, well, I'm not sure if I can do that, can you show me? Right? As a student, there's some wisdom in like getting your info before you do stuff. But if your coach has prescribed it and you trust your coach, you vetted your coach, just do what they say and then come back with the questions later, because you're just getting in the way of your own training. If you're like, okay, well, where am I supposed to feel this? Oh, well, you're supposed to feel it here. Okay, cool. Well, what about if I feel it over here? Well, is that where you're feeling it? Because it's a back squat, you shouldn't feel it in your neck.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, I haven't done a back squat. Well, then why are you asking me this question and wasting both of our time?
Right.
You're paying me for this information, so you should be doing the work.
Right, and also,
then come back. If you feel it in your neck after the back squat, definitely be like, yo, coach, am I supposed to feel this in my neck? Then you have the information,
right.
And I can be like, no, what are you doing? Well, let me show you. That's not a back squat. Let's go ahead and fix that.
So
right?
I hate to go back to cooking analogies.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. I hate to go back to cooking analogies. But are you talking about time, Colin? That's too bad. Okay, so I hate to go back to cooking analogies. Time does not exist in the same way for me as it does for you as the videographer. Right, I know there's a time limit, but hold on. Okay, so imagine this. All right, here, I want you to try this dish. What's it taste like? Have you tried it? No. Taste it first and then give me feedback on it. Why are you asking me questions about if there's too much salt in it if you haven't even tried it yet? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then also on the other end of it, the coach also wants to know, once you've tried it, how's it working for you? And that's the balance, right?
Yep.
So don't come back a day later and be like, hey, I went to a restaurant and I had to go to the ER, my face started to swell up, and I was like, I couldn't breathe. I'm like, you had an allergic reaction? Yeah. Why didn't you say something? Oh, no, I just kept eating it because I'm supposed to eat it. I'm the student, right?
That's bad student. That's on the opposite side, yes.
Right? So it's like, yeah, there is the like, oh, when I do a back squat, I did 5 sets of 5 reps, and my neck really hurts. The coach wants to know, right?
Yes.
Then wait, why after the first set you didn't come to me and say, hey, when I do this move, my neck hurts. It's a back squat, it shouldn't hurt, right? There's the preemptive, you're sort of guessing at what your problems might be, and then there's not clearly identifying them and letting the coach know, and that's the need of the coach.
We also want to know what the positives are too, right?
Yeah.
Like if you do something and you're like, holy cow, as a student, if my coach prescribes something and I do it and I'm like, holy cow, that was awesome. That was exactly what I'm looking for.
Yes.
You got to let your coach know that, because they want to provide you with the best education possible, and a good student will give them the good and positive feedback, and I don't want to say the negative feedback, but the things that aren't working for you as well. The things they're struggling with.
Because the teacher is the guide. They're not gonna just now you show up and you spend time around them, you're gonna automatically be them. That's your responsibility. They can mess it up for sure, but it is your responsibility to own your learning and your growth. Okay, you're saying time because of what? Okay, we're not running out of digital internet space, right? Okay, cool. Wanted to make sure. So, just wanted to make sure. It's because I have a couple other things I want to touch on. So I love that as a coach, when someone comes, they take my advice, they experiment with it, and they come back and they say, hey, here's the problem I'm running into. Because as a good teacher, I was already a good student, I may have ran into the same thing, like, oh yeah, when I was doing it, okay, I had that problem. Or if you're having that problem, it's because of this. But if you don't experiment with it, you don't know. And you can accelerate learning. That's the hack, right? If you want the front flip faster and you want to enjoy the process and you want to have more longevity, analysis, self-awareness, and analysis, and owning your learning experience is going to be the fastest way to do that. Because you're going to be like, I had one lesson, I went home, I tried it twice, I recorded myself, and then I come back to the coach. I've never had a student do that. I don't think maybe I haven't, I forgot, so I'm sorry if a student was like, well, I just did that, you didn't recognize me, coach. I'm like, so it's rare that someone comes to me and they're like, yeah, we were working on this yesterday, and then check it out, I was trying it at home outside. I'd be like, oh, nani, right? I'd be like, what? Oh, that's really good. Okay, you're ready for the next step. And then the other people in class are just like, teach me more. When do I get to know the next thing? And then this guy just hacked it, or gal just hacked it somehow, because they came back and they said, I already did that, and they get 2 more progressions, right?
Yep.
They get 2 more servings of awesome information the next day because they just did some homework. And you don't have to do it. Again, you can do dinner party parkour. It's not a big deal. All right? But if you want that next level...
It's great. Welcome to the family.
Welcome to the family, right? But if you want that next level, that's how you have to own it, right? You've got to 5 or 10x what your coach puts forward for you into your own training, and you're going to kill it that way. And all leagues, and everybody's going to love that. All coaches you're going to earn respect that way. You don't have to agree with everything they say and be a little like goody two shoes like student who's just like a yes man or ma'am and will do whatever, even if it is like driving their head into the ground. That I can't respect that either.
And caveat too that if your coach prescribes something, or your teacher prescribes something, and they're like, "Do this, stop, don't do more."
Mm-hmm.
Don't do more.
They're saying it for a reason.
Yeah, typically if your coach is prescribing volume outside of the gym environment, and they're saying, "Hey, here's your volume, stick to this volume."
Yes.
There's a strong reason for that. So don't be like, "Well, I finished whatever they gave me, and I'm amped up, and I'm still ready to go." A good student recognizes that there's a process they don't understand for whatever reason, and the coach has prescribed it that way for a reason. A bad student says, "I have energy, I have the mental, I'm ready to go, so I'm going to do it again," right? There's a difference between my coach gave me some drills, and I went out and I filmed myself, and I practiced it, and I tried it a bunch of different ways, to my coach said, "Go home, here's your workout, or here's your volume," and then I doubled that volume, right? There are two different things. They're not the same thing, and one of them is a good student, one of them is a bad student, and there's a very fine line there, I recognize. But you need to, as a student, you need to figure out where that line is, right?
As you say that, I just thought of something. Let's verbify student as studenting. Because like studenting is a thing, and I don't think that that's not a real word, is it?
Until we use it a bunch.
Until we use it a bunch. Hey, Colin, will you put that in Urban Dictionary, studenting? Thank you. All right. So
let's start it now.
Let's start it now. Urban Dictionary counts. All right, studenting. So building studenting as a competence, or I will say virtue. I like the word virtue because it seems like there's more. It's like a competence.
There's more clout.
Yeah, there's more clout to virtue. Piccolo.
That's a thing.
It is? Mm-hmm. Oh,
all right.
Dang, yeah. All right.
Just keep pushing it forward.
Let's go. Pushing it forward. So building studenting as a competence and virtue, and coming in and saying like there's the role of being student, but there's also just you need to understand there is something, a skills to build there, right? And it all starts with this. This is what I think the very fundamental aspect of studenting is when you come in and you carry this with you as a personal like mindset and virtue, and then you also carry it into the training environment with your coach. And that is the concept of, we've all heard, well, maybe we haven't heard Bruce Lee say this. So Colin, I'm gonna send you a link for Bruce Lee, right? And this is actually a Chinese cultural concept. It was well articulated by Bruce Lee, but it's not new. It comes from Taoism, so it's got long history. Empty the cup. And that means when you come in, no, not empty, don't dump it out. When you come in, take your big gulp and then just like dump it on the coach's floor. No, emptying the cup means taking disarming some of your like judgment and your preconceived notions and just being very open-minded. So when we say be open-minded, the spirit of what we're talking about is to empty the cup. And that means be the vessel in which new knowledge can flow into and out of, right? So when I come in and I may have some judgments or questions or some ideas about how things are going to be when I go in to train parkour or to train a new discipline, but if I'm in the student mindset, then I should be like the empty vessel, right? So I'm just like completely open to what it is that the coach is going to say, and I'm just gonna like, there's a difference between that and like the idea of just like, kind of like the shut up and do it thing, right? So there's a difference between like, and I want to talk about this because this is where I think some gold is. There's a difference between outsourcing your critical thinking, your good judgment, and throwing it out the door, and a difference between being open to what it is that the coach has to offer. And that's where we run into the issues of like the student being like, I brought in this prior knowledge into this learning situation, and I'm going to try and inject that into this situation. I'm going to try and answer the coach's words for them. I'm going to try and just be like, oh yeah, no, I know. Or I'm going to, like, have you guys had students do this where they come in and it feels just like they're kind of injecting their preconceived notions and their ideas into what you're trying to teach, and it's making it more difficult?
Yeah, I don't have that too often, but when it is a difficult challenge when you get someone like that.
Mm-hmm. Where they come in like that. And I think that the mindset, that again, you have to start with that. And it's a difficult concept to understand and explore, but that's what you have to as a student. That's where you need to start. To come in with an open mind, empty the cup, let the coach's knowledge, just be excited by what you could learn from that situation, and instead of being like, I came in with that cup already full, and I came to this class to learn a front flip. But that's not what we're working on. We're working on something else, right? And the coach is trying to convey something else. The answer about the empty cup thing goes back to if you can approach your learning in a way that allows for the opportunities to arise and present themselves without, you're gonna miss out on stuff, right? This is the Bruce Lee quote that we do where, it's the pointing the finger at the moon. If you focus on the finger, you miss all the moon's
we've used a Bruce
heavenly
Lee
glory.
quote every podcast.
Yeah,
He's used it.
I've used Bruce Lee quotes every podcast, right? So it's like that. Okay, here's a practice. Here's an if you're lost in this analogy, here's what happened. This is how I discovered parkour, because I came to Colorado and I had a background in other things, and I just looked around and I said, what's good? What's good here? I don't care what it is, what the discipline is. I actually started in CrossFit with that, because back when I came in like 2011 or something like that, CrossFit was still a little less commercialized, and a little more hardy. And some people were finding a way to teach what they were really passionate about, like lifting and stuff. And I found coaches who were willing to share that. And I learned about lifting, and I learned about Olympic lifting, I learned about powerlifting, I learned about some strength mechanics, I learned a ton about the body. But I just let go of what I was interested in the past to try and find the gold in things. Then when I saw, man, parkour is pretty cool. I've been watching it for a while, but I didn't feel like I'd met people who really took it that seriously. And then I met you guys, and I met Ryan and Amos and a couple other guys that I started training with. And I was like, these guys take it seriously. They're passionate about it, and they also have some skill there. If I would have had the preconceived notion that I'm a martial artist, I only work on martial arts, this is parkour, it's something different, I don't have anything for this, no space for this, I would not have had the wonderful opportunity to learn parkour. And everyone started that way. So if you're young and you're listening to this, you started out, you just were lucky because you were young, you were forced by your nature to be open-minded.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then, but you wait, that's why some people are still wearing the same styles from 10, 20 years ago. Not because they're practical, but because they're like, oh, well, baggy jeans are dumb, or oh, skinny jeans are dumb, or whatever. They weren't being an empty cup, right? They weren't keeping their mind open and willing to learn new things. So I think that's where the foundation is, because everyone respects someone who's able to go into a new area, learn a bunch of stuff, that journey, that hero's journey, right? They go out to the foreign land of whatever, right? Parkour or martial arts or CrossFit or design, and then they come back and they somehow are smarter, the quality of their experience is better, they've learned more things, and they can contribute it. They don't have to just cut it and say, that's not what I like anymore. I was into parkour and I'm not into parkour anymore.
You can check yourself too as a student and just be like, when I see something, what's my reaction to it? And if I see something new and my initial reaction is, that's dumb, that's dumb, that sucks, then that's your cup is full, right? Mm-hmm. You're already coming in with these preconceived notions, rather than coming at it and being like, I've had to check myself over the years too, because I like to joke about those kinds of things, be like, that sucks, right? But then reality, what I'm doing is I'm like, does it actually suck? Right? Because I mean, I'm being facetious, but I do check myself, because what you say does affect, right? So now I try and tell myself, no, don't say it's dumb or it sucks, just be like, that's interesting. Because it's not positive or negative, that's interesting. And I look at it, and I'm, nope, that's actually dumb. And that's okay, right? You can come up with your own opinions, but your knee-jerk reaction as a student should always be open. And if you come to the conclusion that it's not your thing or you don't like it, like we said, you can have dinner party parkour. That's okay. You can be like, it's not my thing, whatever.
Or you become parkour master chef. It doesn't do either. It's just you, man.
It's just you. And so your opinion at the end of it can be whatever it wants, but at the start of it, you need to come in without an opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Down.
Well, let's wrap it up with Justin. What's your blog going to be titled?
I don't know.
What do you think?
Do you have some loose ideas?
Or it's just some breve variation.
Ah, breve culture. I like it.
Yeah,
the
breve
like
culture
it, the breve blog.
I like
I don't
it.
want to do breve blog.
Come on, dude. The
Yeah, you
phonetics
put
of
the
that
blog
sound
in it.
good though.
Do we still have the domains breve?
I think I may actually still have all those
Right.
domains that we had talked about because I remember we talked and I ended up buying.
Breve. Right. That I think that's
Triple breve
people
X.
need to understand the breve culture at some point. That's another episode. People don't
Maybe
know.
we'll cover that next week. We'll
I
get
think
breve
we
culture.
should. I'm inspired by that. That's awesome. Let's be the empty cup. That showed up. We got to do it.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of breve, again, I'm reminded of how hungry I am with my cooking references.
Goodness gracious. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate it, and hope you got some good knowledge, some good tips out of this. And as always, we try to be Infinite students as well. So if you've got good resources or good ideas, or this inspired you to, or reminded you of something that you learned, toss a link in the comments. Feel free to reach out to us, message us. We're always open to everything that you guys got feedback-wise as well. So cheers. See you guys later.